The Focke-Wulf FW 189, known as the Uhu, translated as Eagle Owl, was a German twin-engine, twin-boom, three-seat tactical reconnaissance and army cooperation aircraft. With its extensively glazed cockpit providing excellent visibility, the Uhu was nicknamed the Flying Eye by the Germans and served in Finland and North Africa, but mainly on the Eastern Front, where the Russians nicknamed it the Frame, due to when seen from the ground the aircraft did, in fact, look like a flying rectangle. With a crew of 3 and armed with a Reconnaissance aerial camera for medium and high-altitude panoramic or strip photography, it served not only in a reconnaissance role, but proved its ability as a multi-role aircraft during the Second World War. With 848 produced, the 189 entered service in 1940 and was produced until mid-1944. The 189's origins begun in 1937 when the Reichsluftfahrtministerium made a request for a short-range reconnaissance aircraft with good visibility to replace the Heinkel HE-46 and Henschel HS-126. They laid down requirements that the new aircraft had to meet, including defensive armament consisting of machine guns and a payload of 200 kilograms of bombs for precision strikes against small tactical targets. In addition, the aircraft was to have an engine power of 900 horsepower to provide the necessary speed and maneuverability, and last but not least, provide excellent ground visibility. The specification was issued to Arado, Blohm & Voss and Focke-Wulf. Arado's design, the AR-198, which was initially the preferred option, was a relatively conventional single-engine, high-wing monoplane with a glazed gondola under the fuselage. Blohm & Voss, however, proposed the entirely unconventional BV-141 with its asymmetrical gondola and tailplane. The Arado design suffered from unrecoverable performance problems, and the project was terminated prematurely, and while the unusual Blohm & Voss design was also developed further, no series production took place. Kurt Tank, lead designer for Focke-Wulf, proposed a twin-boom design, powered by 2 Argus AS-410 engines instead of the expected single engine. As a twin-boom design like the earlier Dutch Fokker GI from 1936, the 189 used a central crew gondola for its crew accommodation. This was designed with a heavily glazed and framed stepless cockpit forward section. Unlike many German medium bombers from 1938 onwards, it had no separate windscreen panels for the pilot. While the pilot was offered a traditional seat and operation of 2 fixed-wing machine guns, the navigator, who was also observer, radio operator, gunner, and even bombardier when necessary, sat on a small swivel stool to assume their multiple roles, while the engineer rear gunner was provided just a padded mat to use while operating the rear gun. As a strange departure from convention, Tank utilized an innovative rear gun emplacement designed by Icaria Work, a rotating conical rear turret of sorts, manually rotated with a metal-framed glazed conical fairing streamlining its shape, with the open section providing the firing aperture for either a single or twin-mount machine gun. The first prototype FW189V1, with registration DOPVN and 2 430 horsepower Argus AS-410 engines, made its maiden flight on July 23, 1938, piloted by Kurt Tank himself. After a successful debut in testing, Tank must have thought there was some real potential in the design. In total, there were 16 prototype and 0 production aircraft produced, including, interestingly, a heavily armored ground attack variant, the 189C, proposed to compete with the Henschel HS-129, but it was not produced due to unsatisfactory trials. But it was the V3 prototype that provided the final production specifications. It had a length of 11.9 meters, a wingspan of 18.4 meters, a height of 3.1 meters, and a wing area of 38 square meters. Powered by 2 Argus AS-410A1 V12 inverted air-cooled piston engines, delivering just 459 horsepower, it could reach a maximum speed of 344 kilometers per hour at 2,500 meters altitude, had a range of 940 kilometers, a service ceiling of 7,000 meters, and had a rate of climb of 5 meters per second. It was armed with 2 7.92mm MG-17 machine guns mounted in the wing roots. a 7.92mm MG-15 machine gun in a dorsal flexible mount position firing to rear, and optionally, a further 7.92mm MG-15 in the rear rotating cone. As well, it had mounting for two 50-kilogram bombs on each of the wings. The A2 variant saw the swapping out the single-barrel machine guns with twin-barrel 7.92mm MG-81Zs, with the A2 becoming the predominant production version. A tropicalized production version of the A2 was fitted with air intake filters for use in the North African theatre, and the A1/U2 and A1/U3 aircraft were kitted for VIP transport. Stripped of most of the armament and equipment specific to reconnaissance to accommodate a more comfortable interior suitable for a VIP passenger. Somewhat of a departure in role, but the 189 was likely chosen for its reliable performance, stability, and the relatively smooth ride provided by its twin-engine configuration and long wingspan. Late in the war, some A models were rearmed with a MG 15120mm autocannon, replacing the dorsal machine gun. More on that later. Of note for all models is the FW-189's maneuverability, with its twin boom configuration and a large tailplane between the booms having a full-length elevator. The plane was extremely agile. It was often able to outturn attacking fighters by flying in a tight circle into which enemy fighters could not follow, often frustrating its predator. As well, its twin rudders and robust construction allowed it to withstand significant damage and return safely to base, always an endearing feature. The aircraft started its career in the Battle of France, but soon found itself in use in the massive invasion of the Soviet Union, Operation Barbarossa. The 189's modus operandi was usually to operate at heights of about 3,000 feet, spotting and taking photos of enemy troop movements, ammunition dumps, fortifications, etc. When faced by active flak fire, they would rise to 9,000 feet or more and continue their work. In key sectors, they flew multiple missions every day, monitoring the front line almost continuously. Their arrival overhead usually meant an impending visit by the Luftwaffe medium bombers, or Wehrmacht artillery fire. But if the target was small enough and the opportunity was present, it would strafe and bomb the target alone. Examples captured by the Russians were given unusually generous praise after evaluation, and the design had an ongoing influence on Soviet aeronautical engineers, including the post-war Sukhoi Su-12. But in mid-1944, with the Luftwaffe losing air dominance on the Eastern Front, the German command was prompted to modify the Uhu fleet into nighttime reconnaissance planes. In the closing weeks of the war, some 189s were converted into night fighters. For this purpose, they were equipped with FUG-212 Liechtenstein radars and MG 15120mm autocannons in Schrager music installations. These guns, aimed upwards, were used after the aircraft made a covert approach from below bombers under the cover of darkness. But alas, the war was already over at this point. Allied air superiority and the chronic lack of aviation fuel meant such gestures were, in effect, futile. In an interesting tidbit, the aircraft was exported to German allies as well, such as Hungary, Slovakia, Bulgaria, and Romania. And in somewhat of a twist, Slovakian Uhus were used against German forces in the Slovak national uprising of 1944. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this presentation, please like and leave a comment. If you would like to see more, please subscribe and hit the notification bell.